Welcome back to another episode of the Field of 68's off-season grade. My name is Rob Dauster, and I have Tennessee native here with me, Terrence Oglesby, and we are going to be breaking down the Tennessee Volunteers. Good old Rocky Top and their off-season. T.O., they lost Dalton Knecht. They lost Josiah Jordan-James. They lost Santi Vescovi, and they lost two pretty good, serviceable, two above-average bigs in Jonas Adu and Toby Awaka. They went out and they got a couple of interesting additions in the transfer portal. I think you could say it feels like, and here's what I come down to at the core for me for Tennessee right now. It feels like they lost a lot of the guys that made Tennessee what Tennessee was in terms of physicality, toughness, defense, culture, mentality, specifically Josiah Jordan-James and Jonas Adu there. And they brought in some guys that are like shooters and stretchy bigs that want to space the floor. It feels like this version of Tennessee is going to be different than the version of Tennessee that we've seen the last couple of years. And I'm not 100% convinced that would work, but I'm also not 100% convinced that it won't work. I don't know. It's going to be a really interesting experiment for me to watch what happens in Knoxville this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. The thing that worries me more than anything when it comes to Tennessee is like individual shot creation and where are you going to find shots? Because that's something that's been an issue when they didn't have Dalton Knecht. They brought in Chaz Lanier from North Florida, who's a very good player. He's not Dalton Knecht. The film doesn't pop like Dalton Knecht does.
Mm-hmm.
Very good player, decent enough size, but he scored a lot of points. But Dalton Knecht was something different. So when all else failed offensively, you could get it to Knecht. He could find you a bucket, and he wasn't passing it, which was fine. But at the same time, you needed somebody to be able to create some decent looks. Knecht could do that. I'm not sure there's a guy like that on this roster. That scares me a little bit. As far as the transfer portal is concerned, Darlington Dunbar has bounced around, but he has improved gradually throughout his college career, now shooting a better ball, especially from three, so that should help. But he came into college as kind of this big bruising athlete. He's worked on his game some. He's improved. I'm curious to see how that goes at the University of Tennessee because Barnes hasn't been all that keen on letting guys shoot a ton of threes if they're screening in the post. So, look, I think they're going to be good. I think their floor is high because of the style of play that they're going to play. I think Rick Barnes is going to have them in the tournament, maybe win a game or two. I just don't know. Are they SEC championship good like they've been in the past? I think they're certainly going to be in the hunt because the style of play they do. They foul on every possession. They're physical. I'm not saying that as a negative, Tennessee fans. Relax. I mean that as they're aggressive, they're physical, they play hard defensively. So it's going to put them in a lot of games. Is there enough shot creation and shot making on this roster to really compete at the highest levels of college basketball? That's TBD, but I have my doubts in terms of that.
So that's actually my biggest question is this a team that can play that level of physicality, right? Like you got a 5'8" point guard in Zakai Ziegler, who I love and who is a pest, but he's not exactly the most like overwhelm you with his strength and physicality kind of a dude, right?
No, but he worries me, man. That dude, if I were an opposing head coach, he'd give me nightmares.
Yeah, no, he's
how the hell am I going to get it up past half court?
Yeah, he's a really good player. And how the hell are you going to keep him out of the lane, especially with the way he played down the stretch? But then you got a guy like Chaz Lanier, who had a great season last year, never averaged more than 4.7 points before last season, right? Igor Milicic is a 6'10" dude from Charlotte that shot more threes than twos last season. Darlin Stone Dubar is a guy that shot 5.5 threes per game this past season. Like they got a bunch of guys that want to space the floor and shoot that aren't exactly known for being what Josiah Jordan-James was in terms of a defender, or being a guys that you think of when you think of Tennessee players the last like 2, 3, 4 seasons, right? So I
said Dunbar. I meant Dubar. By the way, Hey, look, good. I think he's continually improved. I'm excited about. I think out of all the guys that fit stylistically, I think he's the guy that can adapt it the quickest.
Yeah. So that is really my only concern, or my biggest concern with them is like, did they lose the identity that made Tennessee the team that could go out and win SEC games?
That's not a concern of mine.
Okay.
Just because Rick Barnes is their coach, and Rick Barnes coaches one way. And if you're not physical, go ahead and pick your lunch pail up and go on home, because that's just what's going to happen. I did like to pick up from Ohio State, Nakpara. He kind of fits that mold as a physical guy, kind of in the Adu mold, long, lengthy, bouncy, can block shots. They're going to play one way, and it's going to be physical. Jemima Shack, we know what he does defensively. I feel like Jordan Gainey is good enough on the defensive end of the floor. Estrella had moments. Cade Phillips, a good player, didn't play all that much. They're going to be physical. It's just a matter of, are they going to be able to make shots? That's always going to be my biggest concern, because defense is a lot about effort and physicality. And if you don't bring the effort and the physicality, you're just not going to play for Rick. So that part's simple. To me, it's the shot making. Who's going to create shots? Unless they get really creative on the offensive end to get some of these four shots or some of these threes more shots, because they're not necessarily shot creators. I just don't see how the bucket getting is going to be all that simple.
Yeah, I think that they're going to rely on, and this goes a little bit to one of the other concerns that I have. We'll talk about Chaz Lanier in a second, but with Zakai Ziegler, right? It feels like what they've kind of built their offense around is he's going to find a way to get in the lane. He's going to find a way to get the ball out to one of the guys that can shoot it, whether it's, we talked about Milicic and his floor spacing, Dubar, Chaz Lanier, Jordan Gainey's a guy that's been known as a shooter, right? Felix Akparo, kind of like a rim running five man. It feels like they're building everything around Zakai Ziegler is going to be that guy for us. Is he good enough to be that guy at the point in the SEC?
I think he's a very good point that plays his role beautifully. And here's the thing: if he gets into the lane, like, he'll finish some, but he reminds me a lot of Devin Downey. Like, he's in there. If you help late, that's fine. Like, it's just a matter of, like, is he going to be able to finish amongst the trees all that often? He's gotten his body. He looks great, like big, strong, as far as like for his size, that it's still hard shots down there. So I worry about that. Rotate late and you should be okay with Ziegler. But some of these guys, like Jordan Gainey's going to have a bigger year. Jemima Shack's going to have to be a bigger offensive threat, especially attacking the rim. I think Estrella can be that guy. Who's going to be that extra piece? And really, well, we're talking X factors, this, that, and the third. I think X factor for this team is going to be Chaz Lanier. And he has to be. I think Dubar is going to have a good year because he's grown and really matured from when he was in high school. Lanier is going to be that guy that you're going to have a secondary playmaker, secondary shot creator. You have to have that. It's not an option. So he's going to have a good year for this Tennessee team to really get to where they want to go. And that's competing in the SEC, which I think they'll do anyway. Can they win it? They're going to need that other guy.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We are going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay booster too from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show. Yeah, so we can get into the X Factor. I literally have Chaz Lanier, they need a dude written down for X Factor in my notes. And I think, just to kind of elaborate on what you were saying, by the end of last season, when Tennessee would get in a rut offensively, Rick Barnes ran what he would call the Kevin Durant offense for Dalton Knecht, where he gave DK the ball and said, "Get the hell out of the way, go make a play for us." And you had the best scorer in college basketball go out and find a way to be able to create something, whether that's coming off of a screen, whether that's calling out the pick that he wants to be able to try to get the switch on, whether it's just going one-on-one against the guy he knows he can beat. I don't know if Chaz Lanier is that dude. Chaz Lanier strikes me as more of like a catch and shoot, complimentary. You got to run him off screens. You kind of have to create a situation for him to get an advantage, as opposed to being a guy that can go out and get his. Am I right? Do you agree with that?
He showed the ability to do it some, but he does need help. I think that's the biggest concern more than anything. He needs help. They ran a lot of really good stuff for him at North Florida when I watched a lot of it yesterday. Like he can make shots. He's going to need a little bit more space than what Dalton Knecht did because he holds that ball out in front of him a good bit. But they ran some lobs for him. He has the athleticism to do it. It's just where's it been up to last year? There's something to be said for guys that work on their game and really improve. But on the other hand, Chaz Lanier, like, it hasn't been a consistent thing. So that's where my worry is more than anything else.
All right. So expectations for this group. Tennessee has been in and around the SEC title race for more or less the last like half decade, probably 6 or 7 years, right? Dating back to what, like 2018 or so. The Grant Williams era, the Admiral Schofield era, if you will, TO. I think it's Alabama this year, clearly. But once you get past them, there's Tennessee, there's Texas A&M, there's Arkansas, there's Kentucky, there's Ole Miss, there's Florida. I think Mississippi State's going to be really good. It feels like there are probably 7 to 8 teams that could all end up in that like 3 seed to 6 seed kind of a range in the SEC. The Big 12 has a whole bunch of teams that feel like they're going to be competing for 1 through 3 seeds. The SEC has all the teams that are going to end up getting like the 3 to 6 seeds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure where Tennessee falls in that group. You could tell me and put together a good argument that they could be the second best team in the SEC this year. I also think there's like a non-zero possibility they could end up finishing 8th and like 500 in the conference, given how many other teams are about as good as they are. I don't really know what to expect.
I just feel like the style of play is just going to lend to them being towards the top, and they're going to be in every game, if nothing else. And then you throw in the extra factor of like if they hit shots on a given night, they can beat anybody. That's the big thing. Who emerges and steps up as that secondary shot creator, and not only shot creator for other guys, but for themselves. So they need one more. They are going to be put in position to where I think they're going to be top 5 in the SEC because I just feel like that style of play in Knoxville and what Rick Barnes does, it puts them in every game. It keeps them consistent. You know what you're getting. It's just who's that offensive threat going to be? There are people to pick from. I think Dubar could be that guy. I also think that Lanier could be that guy. I just haven't seen it for more than one season from Lanier. So I'm really intrigued to see how he progresses this season. I have my doubts, but I also think this Tennessee team, the floor is high. So they're going to make the NCAA tournament. They might win a game or two.
Yep.
But I don't know that they necessarily have enough offensive firepower to really get to that Final Four in San Antonio to make a deep run in the second weekend.
I don't think that they're a Final Four team this year. I think
No.
they are like, if you get to a second weekend and you finish top 5 in the SEC, I think that I would look at that and say Rick Barnes did a really good job with the roster that he has.
Yep.
Which, I mean, let's get to the grades. I'll go first on this one. I gave him a C, and I feel like I'm being a little bit generous, but my biggest concern here, you lose the second best player in college basketball last season, Dalton Knecht. You lost a bunch of culture guys, and I do feel like they kind of changed what if you took away Rick Barnes and you just looked at this roster, I'm looking at a team that has a point guard that can get in the lane with a bunch of shooters around him, relying on a 5'8" dude. And
the problem is if you get in the lane, like you have to be able to force rotation.
Yeah.
Like, and if Zakai Eagle gets in the lane, like I'm kind of living with some of these 8-foot floaters.
Yeah. That's my biggest issue.
Scary.
Yeah, like I'm looking at this roster and what it makes me believe that their plan is going to be is kind of like let Zakai Ziegler be that guy. Hope he has like a 16-7 kind of a season, right? And allow him to be able to be the focal point for you offensively. He's 5'8". Like I don't know if you can rely on a 5'8" point guard to do that for you in the SEC.
There's been a lot of really good 5'8" point guards. Let's throw that out there. There's been a lot of really good ones. I think they don't take you to the national championship game.
Exactly. I think it's a risk that they're going to take, and it's I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at with this.
Hey, I'm not sure he'll play this year, but Bishop Boswell was one of my favorite high school kids. I don't know that he'll play this year.
Great basketball player name too.
Bishop Boswell, dude, that
Yes.
kid's tough. I don't know how much he's going to play this year because everything that's in front of him, but that kid's tough as nails. And if he hangs around Rocky Top, he'll be one of the favorites there. Like, really nice player.
All right, give me a grade. What's your grade for their offseason?
I'm going B- because they hit a lot of needs and there's a lot of question marks at the same time. So I'm going B-. If Dubar turns out to be a guy that's equally effective in the SEC that he was at Hofstra, which that's a jump, I think it's certainly possible that he could be an all SEC guy. But I'm going B- because they hit some needs. They returned a good bit. And the guys that they brought in are going to be able to play Rick Barnes style. So I'm going B-. There's no Dalton Knecht, but there's also a lot of guys that can contribute in some way, shape, or form.
Well, there you have it. Tennessee should be a tournament team, should be competing at the top of the SEC again this season. T.O., always appreciate you, man. Thanks for being here.